What's good? We got another AskFP, January 12th, I think it is. Question of the week comes from Will Be Free. He says, will Ben Wallace end up in the Hall of Fame? My answer is yes. And here's the reason why. If you always look for comps, right? You always look for somebody who had a similar career who's also in the Hall of Fame. Well, Ben Wallace and Dikembe Mutombo are the only 4-time Defensive Player of the Years in the history of the NBA. So Dikembe's in, so you would think that would lead to Ben Wallace also getting in. You also they also have similar numbers when you look at how often each of them led the league in any statistical category. They both only ever led the league in rebounding and in block shots. Dikembe has a slight edge there, but Ben Wallace has something that Dikembe doesn't, which is a major role on a championship ring. So I think based on that, Ben's resume should get him in. Parker Nelson says, who do you got for the NBA Defensive Player of the Year so far? Which is a perfect segue from our last conversation, or last question. For me, man, it's still got to be Kawhi. Kawhi is playing just ridiculous. The fact that he guards, the most difficult defensive assignment every single evening. Steal numbers are slightly down, but they still way up there. He still blocks shots. Just his on-ball defense, period, just is amazing. And if you look at a statistic like defensive win shares, which is usually a fairly good statistic for Defensive Player of the Year, he is still leading, even though it's just a slight lead over Andre Drummond in that category. But I would have to go with Kawhi. Greg Rempel says, will you be doing a Madden 16 connected franchise this year and or a Madden 17 connected franchise next year? I'm definitely going to be doing one on Madden 17. I am working on something for Madden 16 that would be taking place sometime around the NFL draft. So if I haven't announced it or anything like that because I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. So that's why I haven't said it. So I don't want to say anything until I know for sure that I can do it. But it's definitely something that's on my radar. And for Madden 17, I plan to get started sooner and to stick with it more than I have in the past. So yeah, Madden was I was just thinking, and I was like, man, Madden was like actually just too good this year for me not to really touch it at all. So I've been doing some draft champion videos. I'm going to probably start doing some MUT videos, which is something I never thought I'd say, but I probably will. And try to get to that connected franchise as well. Greg Rempel also says, how good can Eric Kendricks be? Pro Bowler, Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know about Defensive Player of the Year, but I can definitely see Pro Bowler. I think that he is, first of all, I think the Minnesota Vikings defense is coming along really nicely. They're the team you got to be scared of in the NFC North moving forward. That defense looks filth, and if you think about that, they did a lot of what they did this year with guys out. And I do think that Eric Kendricks, along with Harrison Smith, as well as Everson Griffin coming off that edge, and Sharif Floyd up the middle. I mean, the Vikings defense is good, and it's young, it's talented, and has a really good leadership there with the coaching staff in Minnesota. But yeah, I definitely think that Eric Kendricks can be a key guy in the middle. Greg Rempel also says, is Ryan Tannehill a franchise quarterback for the Dolphins or any team for that matter? I don't think that he is. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't throw the term franchise quarterback around lightly. My definition of that term, maybe this will help you understand why I don't say he is. My definition of that term is a guy who I can say unquestionably, this particular player can lead a team to a Super Bowl. And I just can't say that definitively about Ryan Tannehill. I sometimes even question Ryan Tannehill's passion for the game. I remember, and you shouldn't probably put too much stock into this, but I remember watching a little bit of Hard Knocks. I don't watch that show much, but I happened to catch a little bit of a glimpse of it the year that the Dolphins were doing it. And his approach and his football IQ, his football passion just didn't jump out at me. And I don't know. So that I haven't been a big Ryan Tannehill fan since then. Simen Torve Sundlan says Leicester City has obviously been the English Premier League surprise package this season. Can they keep it up? Where do they end up? Well, I definitely think they'll probably end up in the top 4 or 5 in the standings, but I don't really think that they can keep it up. If you look at their, the past matches that they've had and they've won, they kind of been feasting on lower level clubs. Head-to-head matchups with the best. I mean, right now, I think the last 3 matches, I don't think they've scored a goal. Now, obviously, they got to, they are due to get back a really big star in Jamie Vardy. But even with him coming back, I mean, you're talking about 3 straight matches without a goal. And you look at head-to-head, like against Arsenal, they were blown away 5-2 against Arsenal. And that's the only team they're behind in the standings. I don't know. I don't think they can keep it up, not to stay at that level. Simen Torve Sundlan also says, is there still hope for Aston Villa, or are they getting relegated to the championship? I do think they're going to get relegated. I don't think there's any way they catch the Swans or Newcastle. I mean, right now they look really bad. They have like 11 points on the season. It's not looking good at all. I definitely see them getting relegated, and I know that's going to be a really, just a punch in the mouth for their fan base. But what has anyone seen from them all season that would suggest that anything different than that is going to happen? So they're too far back at this point. Even with a resurgence, I think they're too far back. So yeah, I definitely see them getting relegated. Next up, we got still Simen Torve Sundlan says, who do you think gets to the NBA playoffs in the East from 1st to 8th? Honestly, I think the same teams that are in right now. So if the playoffs start right now, the ones that are listed as in now are the ones I think will make it. We got teams like Boston and Washington and the Knicks who are right there in contention, but no more than 1 or 2 games out, and a lot of people are really high on Boston. But Boston struggles with consistency, and they also don't have a true go-to guy. And I always Isaiah Thomas is your go-to guy, but he's got the limitations in those situations because he's small. And I think that's something that they're really missing. If they were able to get the style of play they play, I definitely think they could work it out. And Washington, I think they may have fallen back too far even when they get Bradley Beal and Marcin Gortat back. So I think it's going to hold steady. I think Cleveland number 1, the Bulls are going to be number 2, Miami will be number 3, Indiana will be 4. I think Orlando rises up to 5th. I think Toronto drops to 6th. Atlanta is 7th, and Detroit will be 8th. And my man, I only follow FP, comes with the question. He says, is WrestleMania doomed? And I know what you're saying. It's because of so many injuries on the WWE side. I mean, a lot of people are injured. A lot of people are down. So, but I think it could be a blessing in disguise. I think a smaller roster to work with could press 2 things. It could press them to put some NXT guys into action maybe quicker than they normally would, which I think is something that could be a good thing. And I also think that it could force them to be more creative with the storyline. Now, maybe none of that stuff happens, but dealing with a short roster could help facilitate both of those things. So we'll see what happens. GottaBlast says, in a 7-game series, who you got? The 1992 Dream Team or the 2012 Team USA squad? In a 7-game series, I definitely would have the 92 Dream Team. I mean, you got 2012 team, you got LeBron and Melo and those guys on there, so there's obviously a great team with some excellent talent. But in a 7-game series, there's just no way in the world I'm going to go against a team with Mike, Scotty, Magic, Karl Malone, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin, John Stockton. It's just too many proven winners on that team, too many guys with absolute killer instinct type of competitiveness, and I just can't see any Olympic team beating them in a best of 7 series. TheNamels James says, how urgent do you believe John Cena needs a revamped character? Now that's really funny that you said that, because I've been doing this, well, I just started it, doing this thing where I'm repackaging WWE superstars who may be in need of a character revamp. And obviously, you know, John Cena is the biggest name in wrestling right now, so obviously he's somebody who has crossed my mind in that case. So I would just say this. I don't personally think he needs a revamped character. I like what he is. I like that presence that he brings. But for people who may think that he does need one, I'll ask you guys just to stay tuned a little bit on my channel. Take a look at some future videos, and you'll see what kind of more closely what my take is on that whole thing. So yeah. Jared Young says, what are your thoughts on Demar Derozan planning to opt out, and where do you think he may go? I think it's always, you know, if you're a young player who's been playing well, like he has been for the last 4 seasons or so, I think it always makes sense to opt out. You know, if you know for a fact, you know, you're not injured or anything like that, and you're in a situation where you know you're going to be a commodity, I think it always makes sense to opt out. He may come back to Toronto, but then again, anytime Toronto has a free agent, it's always a nervous situation because of the tax things there and all of that sort of thing. But if he does leave, which I think is a very good possibility, I think he goes to the Lakers or the Clippers, because he's from that area, and I think the Lakers will probably be even more attractive to him, especially with Kobe walking away. So that's my thing. Now, this is a good follow-up question also from Jared. It says, if the Lakers draft Ben Simmons, will they be playoff contenders? I'd say absolutely. You'd have to say that they are, because think about this team. I mean, D'Angelo Russell, if they were to go get DeMar DeRozan, you also would have Ben Simmons, Julius Randle, Roy Hibbert, Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, unless they let him walk. That's a really, and if you still have Lou Williams, that's a really solid team. I mean, oh my God. I mean, it's hard to quantify what Ben Simmons will mean, because we know what his talent level is, and he could very well hit the NBA rolling as a 20-point per game guy from the beginning. He has that kind of talent. But just think about, I mean, we're talking about a really, really solid team as early as next year, you know, and that's not even thinking about them possibly getting someone like Kevin Durant. So it's the Lakers could be really good really fast. Jared Young also says, if you could pick anyone in NBA history to guard Steph Curry, who would it be? Now, I almost gave this the question of the week again, but Jared gets it a lot, so I went a different direction. But this is a really good question. For me, it would definitely have to be Gary Payton. Gary Payton, with his length, with his instincts, with his defensive discipline. If you watch Gary Payton on ball defense, you hardly ever see him leave his feet. He plays absolute defense with his feet, moving his feet at all times, left and right, and very judicious with his reaches. And he has very quick hands and great reflexes with his hands, almost like Charles Tillman in football with the ball punch. Excellent at that. Then the other thing is the psychological aspect of it. Gary Payton was a trash talker, a tough dude. And I don't know if there's anybody quite like him who also has the defensive ability that he had that you could match up on Steph Curry in the NBA today. So if you go back in history, it'd definitely be GP. Jared Young also says, all bench team, best players off the bench for each position so far this season. This was also a good question. I'd have to say at point guard it would be Darren Collison, even though he did get some starts in there. Majority of his season has been playing off the bench, and he's been excellent. Shooting guard would be Alec Burks from Utah. I gave him the slight edge over Lou Williams because Lou Williams has started more games, and their statistics are comparable anyway. Small forward would be Will Barton. He has been balling for Denver, even though Denver's terrible, but he's been balling. I think he has to be the front runner for Sixth Man of the Year. Power forward would be Ryan Anderson. He's been playing really, really well again this year, shooting the ball, rebounding well. And in the middle, It would be Joakim Noah because of his rebounding, defense, and overall leadership. But you got to give an honorable mention to Enes Kanter. He don't play any defense at all, but he has scored and rebounded. Aeneas Thompson says, is Jamal Crawford Hall of Fame worthy? No. He's a good player. He's had a pretty decent career, but little to no major team success. Played a lot of seasons for really bad teams. And yeah, I think he had one season where he averaged over 20 a game. Probably no seasons where he averaged more than 5.5 assists. So yeah, it's not a Hall of Fame career. It's a good career, one he can feel proud of, but it's absolutely not a Hall of Fame career at all. So yeah, I mean, some guys are just good players. Everybody's not a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Vaughn Resper Jr. says, was Bret Hart a better Intercontinental Champion or a better WWE Champion? Now, one of the ways I judge something like this is like what happened. And so it's not just on the wrestler, obviously, because he doesn't control the booking, and usually he doesn't, and that sort of thing. So I have to look at like what happened during your tenure as a champion, like what events went on. And to me, there were much more eventful things happening, much more memorable things happening, much better performances from Bret as a WWE champion than it was. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not like throwing dirt on his IC reign, not at all, because he was great there. But as a WWE champion, there was so many historic things that went on. I cannot ignore it. So I'd have to say he was a better WWE champion than an Intercontinental champion. And I do appreciate you watching another episode of AskFP. God bless. Peace.